For decades, people have admired the Sebring 12-hour and 24 hours of Le Mans. Now, entering its second decade, the American Le Mans Series boasts the Petit Le Mans. And our showcase act is still very much that. Peugeot versus Audi and its status quo. Speed welcomes you back to Road Atlanta in northern Georgia for the 11th running of Petit Le Mans. This 1,000-mile or 10-hour classic is grinding on, and it has been an eventful race, folks, even before the green flag flew. Let's take you to the highlights from earlier today. Yes, even before this magical race began, a multi-time winner, a multi-time champion, Alan McNish, threw his diesel-powered Audi R10 into the wall by mistake, by accident. He put his hand up and said, "My fault." He limped back to pit road as the race got started with Stefan Sarrazin and the Frenchman leading the way in the Peugeot 908. McNish's Audi crew did a marvelous job to get it fixed. He only lost 2 laps and was able to get back down onto pit road. The thumbs up and away he went. Not such a great story. 26 minutes into the race for Scott Sharp. The championship contending Patron Highcroft team were out. Car too badly damaged. Day done. McNish, the master, under pit stops, got one of his 2 laps back from the Peugeot team. He was a man on a mission like you have never seen. Massive crash from Stefan Johansson, a late call to come in to the Corsa Motorsports Zytec team, and this is how it ended. Fortunately, Stefan was able to walk away. Alan McNish, I said earlier, he was a man on a mission. He continued that mission and got back onto the tail of the lead lap, and he pushed his #1 R10 as hard as he could. He apologized to the team and said, "I will do everything I can to get us back into a race-winning position." The attrition has been huge today. The Creation duo both experienced dramas, the 88 and the 888. And that was day done right there. The 12 of Tony Burgess for Autocon Motorsports. It's a new car for this team, and it was done. The Lola too badly damaged, and Burgess out of the race. Look at this close call here with Olivier Pla and Jorg Hart, who was battled for the lead of the race in GT2 with Mark Lead. That was the beginning of a string of problems for the Farnbuckle Oldsman. Check this out for traffic control. Audi versus Peugeot. Lucas Luhr and Christian Klein involved in a tremendous scrap. That one went Audi's way. Check this out from high above. Christian Klein using the traffic, using the momentum, and got through to take the lead of the motor race and the lead of P1 away from Lucas Luhr. Jim Taffel goes off at turn 12 and spins right in front of Lucas Luhr. Lucas did a wonderful job to gather that up, arrest the speed. That was just 1 lap later and avoided contact with the Ferrari driver. That is the update. Now we bring you back, and here we have our current standings in P1. The Austrian former F1 driver still leads the way over the Audi duo of Werner and Pirro, who is closing in on his teammate. Danny Watts has done a good job today, and the 88 of Jamie Campbell-Walter still soldiers on. We say hi to Chris Neville. What have you got for us, Chris?
Well, Nick Manassian looking very relaxed down here at Peugeot as they're leading the race. Nick, before that last caution, you guys were shadowing Audi. Once we got back to green flag, Christian just went by and has gapped him and makes it look easy now.
Good HDI Peugeot engine is very good, isn't it? You know, I think we did a strategy choice in the aero setup of the car, which give us a little bit of a good straight line speed, and I have to say probably the engine is very good as well, you know, so it can only make things easier when it's like this.
Well, early in the race, it looked like you guys were kind of going back and forth. Now you're kind of pulling the trigger, running away. Is it time to turn the wick up here?
If you can run away without making any, doing anything silly, then you just got to do it, you know, as long as you just keep the car nicely on the track. The traffic is very tough, and the track is improving all the time, but it's very hot right now, so it's a tough place.
Well, everything has been running very well with the Peugeot. The only thing that they've talked about is visibility out of that coupe. They've been consistently cleaning that windscreen, but with the amount of debris from dust, dirt, and oil on the racetrack, these drivers have complained that they've had a difficult time seeing.
Wow.
He's having fun, eh?
He's one of the characters of sports car racing. Former open-wheel driver, F3000, came to the States to do some IndyCar racing as well. And it's good to have him back here. And he's got a history at Petit Le Mans as we change gears from P1 to P2 and join Romain Dumas, championship leader in P2. Very, very fast Frenchman as well. And things looking good at the moment. Dumas boasts a 12.7 second lead over Marco Andretti in the Andretti Green Acura. So it's Porsche, Acura, Porsche. We go to another Acura of Michel Jourdain, making his debut for Lowe's Fernandez Racing. Brian Till.
I just checked in with the Penske team. Dumas, as you said, has a very good lead in hand. Now, remember how fast that he and his teammate were at Sebring. They won overall. I don't expect them to do that here, but they are really putting on a show in the P2 class. I checked in with the team. The car has been flawless. Even in the changing weather conditions, it has really warmed up this afternoon. They have not made any changes to that Porsche RS Spider, and they are setting sail right now, Lee.
Well, they sit nicely in the lead of the class, 4th overall. The sister car of Emmanuel Collard is 3rd, and then we go back to Helio Castroneves. The 3rd Penske Porsche sits 5th in class and 8th overall. So they're the 2 prototype classes taken care of. We're up to date there. That's the picture as we go to GT2, and there have been multiple leaders in this class. Well, very much the same as the P2 category. In GT2, the championship leader, Jörg Bergmeister, leads the way. And I have to say, he has a very healthy lead over reigning series champion Jamie Mello in the Risi Competizione Ferrari. And then the team and the driver who Bergmeister is fighting for this GT2 championship, fellow German Dirk Muller, is 3rd ahead of Patrick Pilet. 2nd Flying Lizard car, make it a 3rd Flying Lizard car in the top 5 with the 44 of Darren Law. So a very frustrating week for Flying Lizard with multiple accidents. Right now is looking pretty good, Brian.
Wolf Hensler sitting here on the wall. You guys enjoying a really healthy lead right now, Wolf. You won Sebring. We talked kind of about that with the Penske guys a minute ago. You guys had a great win at the beginning of the year, but traffic for you guys here, I think, is really the key. You guys were saying earlier you've never seen traffic like this before.
Yeah, that's right. When you go back these days to the practice, we had a lot of full course caution, and there's a lot of traffic this year. It's I mean, on the one side it's not so good, on the other side it's good. We have many cars here, many prototypes, many GT cars. We have a big field here, and I think there are many drivers new to the race, and it's a little bit difficult for everybody of us, but so far the race is not too bad. It's a lot better than in the practice.
Well, Chris Neville was talking about the visibility out of the Peugeot with the windscreen. You guys obviously have windscreens too. As the sun begins to set, how difficult is that going to be?
I don't know. I won't be in the car.
Doesn't care is what he means.
Well, we've heard from Brian Till and Chris Neville. Jamie Howe is with us as well. Hi, everyone. I'm Lee Diffie, along with racing experts Dorsey Schrader and Calvin Fish. Boys, what's your assessment of this one thus far?
Well, I'll tell you, just said right there, you heard him say it's a lot better than practice. In practice, we saw multiple crashes, big crashes, a lot of problems. I think everyone's learned their lesson. It's been pretty good. We've had some big wrecks, no doubt, Calvin, but it hasn't really been so much of a traffic situation.
It really hasn't. And when you look at the overall leaders right now, which are the 3 P1 cars, the Peugeot out front, followed by the 2 Audis, the Peugeot has really kept its nose clean. It's been very conservative in traffic. I mean, I think they have a directive from management. Boys, we need to bring one of these big races home. They failed at Le Mans. They lost the LMS championship in the final round at Silverstone. They need to start doing the right things. They seem like they have a little bit more speed, certainly down the straightaway, but in terms of lap time, it's very nip and tuck. Both the Audis and the Peugeot running within a couple of tenths of one another on their fast laps. So this one's going to go down to the wire. Amazing that Audi have got that #1 machine back in the thick of this battle, Lee, considering their start of this race being 2 laps down.
And that brings us back to that point we made right early in the first show, that the Audi Sport North America team specifically practiced emergency work early last week, and it has paid off. So, hey, we've taken care of 3 of the 4 classes. We've still got to talk about the class that the Corvettes run in, GT1. And if you think that the fact there's only 2 of them in it makes it boring, hey, think again. You heard the boys say one last splash for fuel for Johnny O. Where does it rejoin in relation to the sister car, the 4? Look at this. They love racing each other. This is so intense. And they come side by side, door to door through Big Ben.
Oh, the 4 car. They are teammates, and they say they race each other harder than they would race their worst enemy.
And it's hard to believe sometimes when there's only 2 cars in this class, but watch this.
This is coming off of pit road. Look at that.
That is spectacular.
Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by Acura. Acura, advance. By the auto parts experts at AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. And by Mobil 1, the world's leading synthetic motor oil. We're back at Road Atlanta in the afternoon of this beautiful fall day here in Georgia. And as we were going to that last commercial break, I mentioned to you about GT1 and about Corvette Racing. The fact that there are only 2 cars in the GT1 class and they are sister cars, they're teammates. But the rivalry is more intense than you can imagine. Do you remember Mid-Ohio? We showed you highlights going to that last break. Well, we have experienced Mid-Ohio all over again as we take you back to Corvette Racing's last pit stop. Watch the collision. It's a little bit difficult. You've got to watch in between the guys. Here they come. Boom. They mean business. They mean business.
Well, I'll tell you, Ron Fallows actually pulled in front of the 4 car, blocked him in, and I think that was like, all right, don't do it again.
And this is winding back the clock to Mid-Ohio. It's the same 2 guys again, Johnny O'Connell and Olivier Beretta. It is intense.
Watch this, and I think here Beretta just releases that pit lane speed limiter a little bit earlier than Johnny and snakes his way in front, but Johnny got that position back. They're on a roll, 7 wins to 2, 3 over the 4 car this year.
Brian?
Well, down here in the pits, Jan Magnussen's lucky he's got his helmet on. He can't say anything, but Steve Weslowski, you're supposed to be controlling these guys, not only on the racetrack, but in pit lane. What's going on?
Well, you know, the shock collar comes off for the long race, and, you know, actually, again, demonstrating that these guys want to win. Both crews, both drivers, everybody wants to win this race. Don't anybody say we're not racing hard in the pits and on the track. We're going after it and trying to prove a point that we can be competitive with anybody.
Well, there may be only 2 of them, but we talked about it earlier, guys. They race hard, and I even asked Johnny O'Connell earlier, is this race going to be won in pit lane? We may have gotten the answer right there.
Here is the Peugeot 908 race leading car on pit road, full service.
Earlier in the event, we've seen the Audi seem to conduct their pit stops a little bit quicker. Let's see what happens here. This is the 2 car. These cars were running 1-2 when they hit pit lane. We understand the 1 car has made its pit stop and back underway. There he goes.
Calvin, you brought up a good point earlier on, and that was that the Peugeot here is getting better fuel mileage for whatever reason. It seems to be overdoing it a lot. Of course, that might be why it takes a little longer for the pit stop to happen too.
That's right, and here we see Audi once again jumping the Peugeot in pit lane. So maybe it's fuel flow. 85 litres now on these diesels. That's an adjustment since Sebring when Peugeot were over here for the first round of the championship. Alvin Gaines on the radio, who's the engineer there for the number 2 machine. They've clinched the championship, remember, 7 victories. But they want this one dearly. Audi haven't lost here at Petit Le Mans since 2000.
5 is on pit road. Brian, take it away.
Helio Castroneves out, Ryan Briscoe climbing behind the wheel, and Briscoe just absolutely magic in his first stint. He qualified on the pole by almost 2 seconds faster than the existing qualifying record for a P2 car, and he was fantastic throughout his first stint. Castroneves as well. Over these last 4 or 5 laps, one of the fastest P2 cars on the racetrack. Now remember, this was a 3rd car brought in just to help in the championship. Who thought it would be leading and running so well? Lee?
Well, Ryan had that full season, didn't he? And then he's gone off to the IndyCar Series for Roger Penske, but then drafted back in late in this season and slipped back in to this Porsche RS Spider like he'd never forgot.
And I tell you one thing, Brian mentioned it, who would believe they'd be leading? I tell you one thing, Roger Penske will not let that car win tonight if the 7 car is anywhere near to it. They realize points of pressure. However, with the 9 car out of this event, It's not inconceivable this man, Romain Dumas, along with Timo Bernhard, cannot clinch the championship tonight. And they may do it even with a second or third place finish. We'll have to look at the points possibilities here as we get closer to the finish tonight. They may not need to win here to clinch.
Remember that Romain Dumas and Timo Bernhard had that wonderful way of starting the 2008 season when they won Sebring overall. Quite remarkable. From P2 to GT2. We showed you our class leader a little earlier, your Bergmeister. Let's go to the second place, Jamie Mello. They had a shifter problem a little earlier on. With more of an update from the team, here's Chris Neville.
Yeah, just as we finished that first show, the 62 car experiencing shifter problems. They went down 2 laps. When Mika Salo initially brought the car to pit lane, the team could not find anything wrong with the car. He went back out on the track, and the problem mysteriously disappeared. So later on, when he came back to pit lane, they took another look, and what they had found is during that driver change, that first driver change, this is the female fitting for the drink bottle. So this is one that looks proper in the car, and this is the one that was in the car at that point in time. This little connector here had broken off and lodged itself underneath the throttle when Mika was experiencing the problems. He couldn't get full throttle. He was only getting between 5,000 and 6,000 RPM, and because of that, he couldn't shift the car because he needs to be flat on the throttle to do so. So once he brought the car to pit lane, this became unlodged, and they got back out there. They fought their way back onto the lead lap, and they know they've got a long race in front of them still.
Good job, Chris. Let me explain what happened there. These are electronic shift cars, and what happens is you have to have full throttle when you pull the trigger to go to the next gear. The reason being, you need that much torque off of the engine to make the coupling go into the next gear over. And by being stuck in 5th gear, he couldn't do anything with it, short of coming in. For them to find that under the throttle pedal is amazing.
And it's just been a weird season for these boys. At Detroit, it looked like they're going to have another victory there to add on to the one they had at Motorsport, and obviously the 24-hour win at Le Mans. And then they had the door come open, and Mika Salo was running around the racetrack under caution, trying to slam the door shut, had to make a pit stop, cost him precious time and a potential victory that day. So championship season, everything runs smooth. They're having one of those years where the little things seem to go wrong, but they can rebound here today.
And team principal Giuseppe Risi said this year just hasn't gone our way, but I will say that it's been our fault. It's either been mechanical or driver error. We need to win Petit Le Mans to finish the year on a high note. Your 4 respective class leaders as we go to the break. You're watching Sports Cars on Speed. Petit Le Mans continues here at Road Atlanta, and the dramas we saw at the 12 Hours of Sebring earlier this year we have not witnessed with the Peugeot Sport team. And they were reliability issues. They were fast, but the bumps, the brutality of the Sebring course brought them undone. They also experienced reliability problems at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So far, so good here. And as the boys highlighted earlier in this broadcast, you have to remember they won 4 of the 5 rounds of the Le Mans series in Europe. This is all part of a bigger picture of going to Circuit de la Sarthe 2009 and being crowned Le Mans champions, just as they were back in 1993. That is part of this big mission with their diesel-powered machine, with their HDI FAP technology.
The original intention with this program, it was going to be a 2-year program. They believed that they would win Le Mans within that 2 years, and then we thought they might take a 1-year hiatus and come back with hybrid technology. They debuted, or actually showed, the hybrid car at Silverstone just about a month ago at the last round of the LMS Championship, so it's still on the cards that may appear, but talking to their drivers this weekend, they don't really give you the full scoop, but it seems like that's still 18 months away, and you'd have to think there'll be a revised version of this that will return to La Sarthe for next year.
Of course, they destroyed the sister car to this car at Silverstone, and this car itself had a huge crash here and was nearly destroyed in practice prior to this race start.
With Pedro Lamy, who is not actually racing here this weekend.
Yeah, that was quite a bizarre decision. They brought Pedro in because he has good circuit knowledge here, so he was drafted in just for the test, came across a slower prototype car, nowhere to go, and crashed it heavily coming down the hill towards turn 12. And there's been a bit of a spare shortage all the way around amongst these prototype teams this weekend, and Peugeot is certainly one of those guys.
Dumas has brought the 7 in at Penske.
Sitting still in the car right now, the fuel beginning to flow in. Remember, the crews cannot change tire until after the fueling is done. So right now, Dumas staying in the car. Now, interesting, thought that the Porsches might be able to double stint Michelins as we get later in the day and things get cooler, but they will not double stint these. It does not look like. Fuel is in, the car up. Front tires going on, rear tires going on as well. So a routine stop down here. This car looks clean. They'll try to get the 7 car back on track.
And you see right there, the driver got a drink bottle, and the mechanic off the side with the little mobile container was adding oil to the engine through a little pressurized hole there on the side. And of course, there's some controversy going on with these cars with its fuel.
This is where the drivers have to be careful when you're trying to look for traffic and get up to speed, and the tire pressures aren't up and the tire temperatures aren't up, and particularly during the last hour or so of this event, guys have to be very careful here. We've seen numerous crashes here this weekend with guys getting caught out on cold tires.
Of course, I was referring to the protest of the fuel they're using in the Penske's. Now, that protest will be heard after this race is over. They'll take the fuel and have it analyzed, so it will not be, finished at the end of this contest today until the results of that protest are heard.
We talked about points possibilities. Looking at our chart right now, we believe with the 9 car not scoring points today, if this car, the 7 car, finishes on the podium, that should be enough to clinch, barring that protest that you're talking about, Dorsey.
Time now for Pat Long to climb aboard and take over from Manuel Collard. Pat Long has an extraordinary record here in Petit Le Mans, as far as winning, that is. He shared the victory in P2 last year as part of the Porsche team with Timo Bernard and Romain Dumas. The year before, in 2006, he won the GT2 class with Jörg Bergmeister. And the year before that, he and Jörg did it again. So this streak is well and truly alive. Long going for 4 respective class victories here at this 1,000-mile classic. The American Porsche factory driver is away. Chris?
Well, the 62 Ferrari in the pit lane. Jamie Mello has been fighting to get his way back up on that lead lap. Just got out. Mika Salo getting back behind the wheel. When we saw the problems with the shifter at this car, Mika Salo was behind the wheel, and he came to pit lane, and he was smashing his fist on that steering wheel. He always shows so much emotion inside the car, and things weren't going right. When I talked to him before he put his helmet on here, he had that big charismatic smile. He said things are going better, and that damn little piece, that almost cost us the entire race, but now we're back in it. Good pit stop by these guys.
The Flying Lizard car releases the 45, and it comes in right behind. Does the switch back, and Brian Till's standing by.
This car rolled to a stop. Jörg Bergmeister climbing out, and I've talked about how pristine the Penske RS Spiders were. Well, this one is not. A lot of dirt all over it. Looks like Bergmeister has been off track here in the last lap or so. Dust all over it. Grass and dirt in the left rear tire. So this Porsche has been taking a beating out on the racetrack. And once again, slower of the 4 classes, the GT2 cars really have to work to stay out of the way and get out of the way. Perhaps he was nudged out of the way by a prototype. I don't know. Don't see any body damage to the car, but it definitely has a lot of red Georgia clay on it as Wolf Hensler climbs behind the wheel. This stop is done, and Hensler trying to get it refired. It's taken a while here. Anytime spin on pit lane is painful, but Hensler now gets away.
Can you imagine being an owner of a Porsche team like Seth Nyman and the group involved with Flying Lizard Motorsports are, and saying, okay, you can take your pick of any Porsche 911 drivers in the world. Well, okay, we're going to give you Jörg Bergmeister, Mark Lieb, and Wolf Hensler. Oh, my goodness.
Pretty tasty trio there, but these guys have to be focused on one thing right now. That's getting 70%. That's where you score points. They have a huge lead right now, and they just got to think about that. Look how tight it is. You saw the Fernandez car go flashing through the screen there as this GT2 car tries to get up to speed. So some of that is the class difference, but this is cold tires as Hensler fights the car.
And in the S's, there's nowhere to hide. There's nothing he could have done. I mean, you can't go offline. We'll look at it again, and it's obvious he's struggling to get up to speed because of the cold tires. In the meantime, the prototype car is going to gobble him up. Went off at the bottom of the S's. Watch this. It's very fast down there, too, to be going off into the grass.
This team has really come so far They have really established themselves as the premier Porsche group here. Mind you, Farnbach-Gallows have had a tremendous season too, getting that first victory, and they have a fast race cars every week as well, so they're certainly going to push these boys next year for the top Porsche team.
And all of the Porsche teams, all of the GT2 teams know just how intense this fight is, and they know how brutal this 1,000-mile endurance classic is on their cars. Brakes, suspension, the entire car just cops a beating around this undulating, demanding Road Atlanta circuit. I want to remind you, starting on Monday, October 6th, when you head to AmericanLeMans.com, you can help the series select its drivers of the decade. Remember, we're finishing the first decade, entering the second, and you can play a part in deciding the drivers of the decade. To vote, head to AmericanLeMans.com. Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta continues the fight, the big fight up front for Prototype 1 honours and overall honours between Audi and Peugeot. Audi leads the way with Marco Werner in the 2 car, and the Peugeot with Nicolas Manassian now back behind the wheel. And while they continue their fight, Dyson has experienced problems with the 16 of Chris Dyson behind the wheel. Our Chris Neville is there. Chris?
Yeah, Lee, it's been a tough day for the 16 car. They just haven't had the handling right on this car all day long. That's why they're down a lap. And they've also been experiencing vibration in the right rear. And now it looks like a little bit of contact or something on that right rear. Lots of bodywork damage there. The team is trying to change out this rear wing assembly and also that rear deck. It looks like it's going to take a little while to get this rear wing assembly changed on this car. Other than that, it just looks cosmetic, so hopefully if they can get Chris back out here. But like I said, they've just had a very difficult time trying to get this car to handle all week long, and they're not getting it to handle during the race either.
A lot of rumors in the paddock right now what's going to happen with Dyson Racing for next year in terms of which car they'll be campaigning. A lot of conjecture, of course, about Penske. Will they be back with Porsches? If Penske are not back, will the factory support and some of those drivers end up in the Dyson camp? Dyson supposedly has been talking to Lola about maybe running a coupe in P1. Very much rumors. No one will confirm anything, but certainly changes are possible for 09.
Let's have a look at what happened to Chris Dyson. Car in the middle, right, second slot. Oh, it's a Corvette. It's the 3 that gets into the back of the 16.
Magnussen, I believe, behind the wheel right now.
Yeah. This is turn 6, very fast corner, deceptively quick. Oh, he just runs right through him.
Yeah, just all stacked up there. I think Mags expected Chris to accelerate through the corner. Chris was being conservative, seeing what the other traffic was doing, and just bopped him.
The sister Dyson Porsche of Andy Lally was able to find an inside passage through there. He is in the top 10 overall. Meanwhile, let's take a look at what was brought in as the 3rd Penske Porsche, and for the majority of the time it has been the lead Penske Porsche. Ryan Briscoe is behind the wheel right now. His co-driver not long ago stepped from the car. Let's hear from him.
It's always great to see Helio Castroneves at the racetrack. Good to see you back in ALMS competition. No, it's been a rough week, but let's talk about racing, all right? Now, for you, this car really brought in as a 3rd car to kind of, a lot of people thought to be a blocking back for the other guys to help Porsche win the championship. You guys don't want any part of 3rd place, do you?
No, we're going, you know, I mean, just to clarify, I just want to thank all the fans, friends, for sending a lot of messages, a great message. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much. We're going to go through this with no problem at all. So now I'm so happy to be here, to be honest, man. It's just so awesome again. And you're right. They're talking about we're going to help the number 7, but man, I mean, we're going for it. And the cars are so amazing, and it's so difficult for you to get the rhythm because the traffic, and when you practice, you don't have that much of a practice, and you're trying to look for a clean lap and things like that. But right now, it took me a little time in the beginning to get up to speed, and all of a sudden we're fine, and man, we're right up there.
You certainly seem to be flying, but the thing that's amazing to me is in all the races that you've run and won, you've never raced at Road Atlanta before. That means you've never done a Petit Le Mans. For you, this racetrack, this event, tell me about it.
Let me tell you, this is an incredible racetrack. First time when I was driving, first of all, it's an incredible and challenging place because it's up and down, and you can't see some of the corners, blind spots, and it was really fast. I mean, you're talking about going through the corners about 150 kilometers, I believe. Wait a minute, that's what I see there. But anyway, the point is, it's so fast, and when you have somebody in front of you, you don't know where's the apex of the corner, so there is a lot of challenge. But the guys, everybody kept this place, or keep this place really neat. So I'm so happy to know this place. I'm so happy to be here too.
All right, Petit Le Mans, all this traffic, or a mile-and-a-half oval, wheel-to-wheel in an IndyCar. Which one's more difficult?
Whoa, wait a minute. It's an oval, and this is a totally different experience. But I got some good passes out there. It was remind me of the ovals, but instead of turning left, it was turning right. But again, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna still a lot of race to go. So keep watching speed because they're broadcasting all the way through.
And of course, the thing that's always aggravating, guys, he looks this good when he just got out of the car.
Well, it's good to see him in such a positive frame of mind, and what Brian was referencing there, it's been a tough week. It's been a heavy week. He and his sister Elio and his sister were indicted on tax evasion charges, so we wish him all the best with that. It's going to be a tough time ahead, but he was allowed to come back to the state of Georgia and race here in Petit Le Mans, and for that we are grateful.
It's a huge undertaking here this weekend for Porsche and the Penske crew to field these three cars, Dorsey. It's not easy just to roll another car out there. I mean, you've got to think about your crews, but fortunately the IndyCar season is pretty much over. They have that one race left down in Australia, of course, which is an invitational event where Penske will be at, but it's mainly the IndyCar crew working with Ryan and Elio this weekend, which certainly helps that chemistry, which is so key.
Yeah, and you're right. Usually when you add another car to the equation, it takes away from the performance of the first two, your two primary cars, but that's not the case with a guy like Penske, who has enough other types of teams and other, resources that he can pull something like that off.
Any truth to the rumor you behaved so badly at that Surfers Paradise event you're not allowed back in Australia?
I was taking your lead, man. That's when we first met, wasn't it? Certainly a fun time down there. All of the race car drivers love going back to Surfers, that's for sure.
Just as much as they love being here, like Marco Werner at Petit Le Mans. He has won this race. He's a three-time series champion, including this year. The German is flying. He and Lucas Luhr have really melted together, really bonded to become a very effective P1 driving partnership. He leads this race at the moment over Nicolas Manassian. The second Audi with Dindo Capello behind the wheel is currently third. And then the first P2 car is Romain Dumas in fourth overall. Briscoe is fifth. The best Acura is sixth, with Tony Kanaan ahead of another Penske Porsche. Patrick Long is seventh overall and fourth in class. Michel Jourdain Jr. making his Lowe's Fernandez Racing debut in another Acura P2 car is immediately behind, and then next up is Andy Lally, and then Scott Dixon is in the top 10 overall. Yes, IndyCar Series champion and Indy 500 winner Scott Dixon back at Road Atlanta after some 10 years away. The last time he raced in a sports car race here, that is, in the American Le Mans Series, and Scott loving driving that Acura, the Panasonic Acura for DeFerrin Motorsports.
Well, you see how tenuous everybody is when they get around each other in the traffic, and understand in a couple hours it's going to be dark and you won't know which of those cars it is coming up from behind you. That's when it gets really interesting.
It is really hairy here at night. We see the 16 back on course. The Dyson crew did a quick repair to the tail end, changing that whole tail section and some body work.
Chris, you got more on this as it hits pit road.
Yeah, guys, this is that tail end. You were just talking about them changing the back end of it. What I want to do is go back to when we talked about the Peugeot, the visibility problems those drivers are having about halfway through this race. You can see the leading edge of the Dyson tail here, how dirty that is. And now imagine that this is the same thing that the Peugeot drivers and also the GT1 and GT2 drivers are experiencing now, and we'll be especially experiencing as the sun is setting. Look at how dirty this is, Dorsey. I have a feeling this is what your motorhome's going to look like when we get done with it after Topeka next weekend.
Hey, Chris, if you taste that, you can tell whether it's oil or bugs or what it is.
Taste it.
And here is the stop-go penalty for the Dyson. They had team members, they had crew working on the car while refueling was underway as well, and it's a 1-minute hold. This is a serious stop-go.
But by having a lot of guys over there working and breaking that penalty, he might have fixed the car faster than the minute to losing.
That's true.
And we have someone running right now to replace Chris Neville's handkerchief. He did that show and tell with. And this is frustration for Dyson, no doubt about that. And they will get back out there and at it. They do have one car in the top 10 though. Andy Lally, Mr. Versatile, he will drive anything and do a good job, is currently in 9th overall for Dyson Racing. There are your 4 respective class leaders. Of course, we're talking sports cars here at Road Atlanta, but I want to remind you about the Japanese F1 Grand Prix next Saturday here on Speed. Now, the time is 12 a.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. And, of course, the pressure is on with only 3 Grand Prix to go. That one from Fuji, Japanese Grand Prix live next Saturday here on Speed. Drama for the 4 Corvette. You can only fight your sister car if you stay with them, and this is not helpful. Let's get an update.
Car rolls to a stop. Gavin behind the wheel. And I said earlier, if it weren't for bad luck, this team would have no luck at all. Well, guess what? Bad luck again. They believe it is a throttle cable on the 4 cars. Gavin able to limp it back around to the pits, but this is going to be a lengthy stop down here. And I believe the 3 already has a 2-lap lead over the 4 car. So 2008 has just not been the year for Beretta or Gavin.
And Brian, you know, he had to limp it around for about a half of a lap, a mile and a half roughly. If it's a broken throttle cable, he got it down in the first gear and he just let it idle until he got it back.
We're going to go to a replay, Dorsey. Put your spectacles on and see if you can identify this. Take a close look on the right of your screen.
Here he comes off the corner. Everything seems normal, but right away you see him pull off to the right side of the road. He knows he's in trouble already. Normally you would come out, this is turn 7. You would normally come off there. Yeah, a little puff of smoke right there. Again, this is another car that's got electronic shifting and so forth, but this is something that sounds like more like a throttle cable. There is the cable. I don't see it that it's broken, but they're pulling off the top, and it's going to take some time.
Amazing how it goes in cycles, isn't it? For so many years, it was Ronnie and Johnny, and then the younger guys came into the team, and the luck went to the 4, as Brian was just documenting, and now this year has very much been the year of the 3.
And it changes the dynamic. I mean, for the 3 car, they get more and more confidence, and for the 4 car, they get rattled, Dorsey, because they just see the championship slipping away, they see victory slipping away, and it just changes your whole dynamic over the course of a race weekend.
Sometimes you get that monkey on your back like this. It's nothing they've done wrong here. Some crazy little thing goes wrong, and it bites you.
Remember, this is the last time we'll see the GT1 Corvette here at Petit Le Mans. This time next year, they'll be competing in GT2. A little bit of panic going on down there in the Corvette Racing camp. They'll do 3 races next year in GT1, and that, of course, will be the 12 Hours of Sebring. They'll also do, is it Sabine or Long Beach? Long Beach they'll do. And then, of course, the big one at Le Mans, they will go there and try and take that win that they feel is rightfully theirs away from Aston Martin and ProDrive, and then they'll make the switch to GT2, which there is a lot of excitement about, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge competition between Ferrari and Porsche, but you can add Bobby Rahal and a team of BMWs to the equation. He's also going GT2 racing, and these Corvettes, 2 of them will be built, and so GT2 is going to be a tough little class.
Well, it's always been so competitive, but when we get more and more manufacturers involved, it really changes things there also, and this is not a quick fix by the look of it.
No, it's pretty cool there, though. Those were carbon fiber velocity stacks that you saw right there, the 4 of them.
Well, guys, they're going to pull the windshield now, take the dashboard off, and try to get underneath and find the problem. If you don't think these guys are dedicated, the guy laying on top of the motor right now, the badge on his right sleeve is 3. So he works on the 3 car, but he's in here working on the 4 car right now, and maybe because he's got the skinniest arms. And remember, these are race cars. It is hot in there, and he's laying on top of this big old thumping Chevy V8 that's in here trying to help his teammates get the throttle fixed on this 4 car. So no quit on this team, and obviously it is a team, so they work together even against their sister car when they're trying to race it on the track. When it comes to pit lane, they'll do what they can to try to help him get back out there.
Well, of course, just under that intake manifold that he's working on there is the exhaust manifold.
Yeah, I hope his underwear is flying through.
So that's running about 1,000 degrees right now.
His wife may not recognize him when he gets home.
Not a pleasurable thing to do, to lay over the top of a hot engine like that.
That's what it takes, because there's still a long way to go in this. Over 150 laps left, so they can come back. The 3-car can hit problems also.
All right, let's leave the Corvette boys to it. They will go and take care of that lengthy repair. Let's climb aboard the 15 Lowe's Fernandez Racing Machine. Their third Petit Le Mans in as many years, and here we ride with the third Mexican in this team, Michel Jourdain Jr., former Champ Car kart driver. At one point in time was the youngest to ever start a kart race at 19 years of age. He is 5th in class and adapting very well to this P2 prototype.
I just checked in with Luis Diaz. Luis is now getting suited up. He'll be the next driver behind the wheel, but he told me the team is very pleased with the way this race is going for them. They haven't had a single problem so far. They're comfortable with their standing right now and are looking forward to taking the checkers to the end.
You know what did happen? Adrian Fernandez spun twice in qualifying, which was very uncharacteristic of Adrian. They didn't qualify as well as they would have liked, but they kept powering on, and one of their guys on their team, Tony Leith, who's been around forever, he won Petit Le Mans with Panos back in 1999, back in the 2nd year. So Tony knows what it takes to win this great event. He's the chief mechanic on this car. Very talented, dedicated, and loyal team at Lowe's Fernandez Racing. And so far, so good.
Here we see one of the other Acura cars, the number 66. Scott Dixon behind the wheel right now. Gilles de Ferran had a little off. Coming down into this corner earlier in the event, cost them some time, damaged the rear bodywork. So they're a few laps down, but they'll keep plugging away. They're learning. Of course, the big news at Detroit a couple of events ago is that 2 of these Acura teams, namely this one, de Ferran Motorsports and Highcroft, will be promoted to the P1 ranks for next year, leaving Adrian Fernandez's team and possibly still AGR to compete in P2 for next year.
Checked in with de Ferran Motorsports, and just a little bit of an update on their crew member Jonesy, who was injured in that fire that they had in pit lane at Mid-Ohio. Jonesy is at home. Recovery is going very well. He's healing his burns. He's actually enjoying his time off this season. He's seeing his son's go-kart races and making frequent trips to the office to check in with the team. So he knows exactly what's going on, but he's watching the race at home right now.
And Jonesy, as Dorsey's just circled, that's that sticker there, the yellow decal on the left-hand side. It says, "Get well, Jonesy." That was the team thinking about you.
That was a scary moment at Mid-Ohio when they had that pit fire. Car took off. Refueling rig was still connected. We had fire in pit lane, which is always a scary thing with a packed pit lane like we have here.
Spoke to Steve Reagan yesterday as Dixon throws it into turn 10A and B. He's enjoying driving this prototype, and Steve Reagan said it's been a really wonderful effort from the entire Acura family. He said it hasn't been a wonderful effort that we've crashed so many cars, not just our team, but all of the teams. He said we've really had to work as a family and share our spare parts until more were flowing in. But we're getting there, a step at a time. I hope you can stick around. This is Petit Le Mans here on Speed. Really hope you're enjoying the coverage of Petit Le Mans, part of the American Le Mans Series 10th anniversary. What a year this has been for the ALMS. And this event, well, it's been punctuated by, I think off the top of my head, 6 caution periods. There have been some fairly heavy incidents and accidents today. And it's been a little stop-start, but just now we're starting to get into somewhat of a rhythm. Not only is this an exciting day because we're seeing Audi versus Peugeot again here on American soil, but it is also the racing debut. Now I have to say, before here it was trialed 3 times at Road America, at Mosport, and at Detroit. I'm talking of course about the Green Challenge. The American Le Mans Series is leading the racing world in their green movement. The Green Challenge is all about the most environmentally friendly, fuel efficient and competitive package at the one time. And as we see here, Cal, prototypes, this is the up-to-date scoring. The 6 P2 Penske is leading the way.
It is, and basically we've got 3 different types of fuel being used in the race. The Peugeot and the Audis are on the clean diesel, and amongst the other cars it's all split between the E85 and the E10. ethanol-based gasolines, and essentially there's a carbon footprint that is produced by those vehicles, and then that's one of the factors. Then you combine that with how much fuel is being used during the race to this point. It's real-time telemetry. All of the fuel rigs up and down pit lane have special sensors in them giving us this information, and then your track position and how competitive you are with your lap time. This is all factoring to give you your score, and obviously low score lead. So right now Penske in front.
And just like many of you may drive hybrid vehicles on the road, we're on the verge of seeing hybrid technology here in the American Le Mans Series in racing. I want to tell you too about one of our diesel cars is currently fourth. The one Audi R10 TDI for Audi Sport North America is currently fourth in the prototype class. Now, it's not just about the prototypes, it's of course about the GT cars as well, and things looking good for Corvette Racing.
Absolutely. Those guys are running the E85 fuel, so things looking good for the Corvette boys, of course. And getting back to that prototype, we can see that it was all Porsches there at the front of that pack, and all three of these cars that we're looking at on screen are running the E85 fuel, so that is obviously a good thing. We're seeing those now leading the Green Challenge. And you're not stroking it. I mean, the Corvette boys were adamant they were going to absolutely push hard, and we've seen that in pit lane and on the racetrack. To win the Green Challenge, they still had to run very impressive lap times.
The interesting thing about it, Dorse, is that many racing series have spoken about going the green way. The American Le Mans Series has stepped up and actually done it. We'll come back to that in a moment, Dorsey. Let's get to Brian Till.
Leader in GT2 has 5 wins here at Petit Le Mans, 5 in a row actually, Jörg Bergmeister, but you guys seem to have found a push in qualifying that will not go away. I know you're literally driving the tires off of this thing, but what can you do from inside the car to try to help that and have a good car towards the end here?
What we're trying to do is really brake late and yeah, drive it like a go-kart pretty much, and then push really hard to get rid of that mid-corner understeer as much as we can. Actually, we had a really good car this morning in warm-up, but had to change the gearbox, and with that we got a different differential, which is much tighter, and so we picked up again that big understeer.
As the weather cools down as we move towards night, and I don't know if you can go to a different compound tire, but the cool weather, a different compound, might that help?
I hope. I don't know. We'll see. When I was out there, we had on the left side we were on hard tires, and now for both we went to a medium left front and a hard rear. So hopefully that will help him a little bit with that understeer.
Well, like I said, he's won 5 in a row. Let's see if he can win 6 right now. They got their fingers crossed. Lee.
Looked like a little bit of time trouble.
Yeah, they had a little blister right there. You saw him come over with a piece of tape, duct tape, and cover it up because he doesn't want us looking at that. That chunk right on the edge, Calvin, right where the tire, it's a radial, of course, goes square off the side. That means you're building up a lot of heat there. You and I both saw earlier on that these cars were running a lot of camber, or a lot of kick out in the tire angle at the front.
Yeah, and that'll tend to overheat the inside edge. When it was running down pit lane slowly, we could see that, and here we see one of the Audis making a pit stop. That's the one car, and Nishi's getting back in.
And Brian, at the time of this pit stop, they're less than a minute away from the race leader, 50 seconds behind race-leading car Marco Werner.
Yeah, that is incredible. Now, Alan McNish is not going to get in. Dindo Capello had a problem with his seat insert. And one of the things about that is you think about the G-forces these guys are pulling out here. The insert was not square in its base, and it was really digging in. So the driver can have an assistant, and that's exactly what Alan McNish is doing. He got suited up like he was going to do a driver change, but he loosened Dindo's belts, moved him forward in the seat a little bit, got that insert where it needed to be. And now the crew filling it with the diesel fuel, the gas-to-liquid technology in the diesel fuel here, that clean diesel, putting 400 Michelins on. And Capello will be back out.
Push back when you're done.
He's been very animated in there. Capello was very, very animated. He is blocked by the sister car.
Oh, he was so close to hitting that tire, which should have drawn him a penalty. He got around it.
Turning radius is not good on these race cars at low speed, and they realized that with the 2 car coming in, they would have an issue.
Pit lane is clear. Okay, you're clear. Go, go, go.
Lucas Luhr out right now, but remember, guys, with the 1 car sitting in his pit box, Lucas had to steer around here, so certainly not intentional, but it really did box Dindo in, and you saw the frustration. Calvin, you talked about it. Long wheelbase on this Audi, not a lot of good turning on it. Difficult to get out of that tight spot.
It really is, and getting back to that seat insert, Dindo doing that stint with that seat insert not incorrectly, that will really give you a cramp in your side. You really need full support with the amount of downforce these cars now generate around a high-speed racetrack like this, Dorsey, it is really difficult for the drivers if you're not propped up properly in the car.
Yeah, and if that thing's digging into your side at all, you know, every time you turn left or turn right, it's digging into the side of your rib cage. You develop a bruise there really quickly, and it becomes very tender, and it takes away your breath. For the rest of the race, you can't deal with it.
One thing we've been remiss to mention over the while is that our Dorsey Schrader is the only American to race the old gasoline-powered R8, the mighty R8 that won so many races, so many 24 hours of Le Mans at this level of competition. What was that like, Dors?
These cars are fantastic. I mean, it's hard to even express the kind of car that is, how good the car is, how the car is better than you are. You know, it tells
most cars
you.
are better.
Yeah, well, in my case, it didn't take much for them. It's really a technological miracle what they do with these cars. And you were talking about the green challenge before. That's another thing that the engineers, it's another thing for them to tackle. They say, okay, boys, now you've made it fast, now make it efficient.
And one of the really proud moments for Champion Racing, the Florida-based team, is that at Sebring it's predominantly run by Yost and Audi staff. At Le Mans it is run by almost entirely Yost and Audi staff. Here in the United States in Petit Le Mans there are only 4 Audi staff here. The rest all belong to Champion Racing. This is their day.
It really is, and they went a long time before they got that first victory back in 2003. And getting back to that green challenge, Audi are adamant they do not want to see any smoke coming out of this diesel. Talking to Brad Kettler, technical director there for Audi North America, he said that we've probably given up a little bit of power by that. You think Peugeot are pushing that envelope a little bit further, and maybe that's why they've got a bit more speed right now.
He said, we pride ourselves on it so much. Wipe your finger on the inside of our exhaust pipes, and he said, I dare you, you will never come away with a dirty finger. That's how clean our cars run. We'll be back. The beautiful view aboard the Porsche RS Spider. This is what it looks like here at Road Atlanta as the shadows take effect. If you are Frenchman, Romain Dumas, points leader in P2. He won this race last year. He won Sebring overall. This guy is mighty fast.
It's like a bobblehead in that car, though. Watch his head move around at speed. The buffeting, they have that little trimmed windshield there at the front of the car, front of the cockpit. And then you see his head and body totally compressed with the G-load under braking and certainly the cornering load there through turn 1.
And you see right here on the top of his helmet, he's about in jeopardy of losing his Velcro strip. They put that up there so when they do their driver's change, they unplug their radio, which has got the other end of the Velcro, and you stick it up on top of your helmet. And that looks like it's getting ready to blow off.
Watch at the end here of this short shoot up to turn 6, how much he submarines. Watch. Down into there. Nip up on the inside of the Risi Krone Ferrari. Good strong run from that car again today.
And you wonder why race car drivers all have bad backs as they get older like me. That's compression of the spine, my friend.
I always love it when you go to a grill out or a dinner party and someone who's not from within our sport tries to tell you that drivers aren't athletes.
Yeah, right.
I always love that.
It's fun. One of the fun things, and Calvin, you and I both have been driving instructors, is to get someone in a race car that's never been in one before and let them do about 5 minutes in there. They can't even breathe any longer.
That's right.
Look at
here
this.
You see him being patient here. You don't want to get too close. You have to time that run. He looks over. He wasn't happy about that, but that's part of the battle. It will ebb and flow. You'll lose a little bit on one lap. Hopefully the competition does the same thing.
And that's going to get harder tonight for sure because of once the daylight goes away, you don't know what kind of cars you're dealing with. The GT cars have tinted headlight covers, which helps out quite a lot, but nonetheless, when you're looking in the rearview mirror at something coming up from behind you, it's really hard to tell what it is.
This is the tough part of the racetrack. If you catch traffic through here, you'll lose anywhere between 3 and 5 seconds in one lap between the prototypes and the slower GT2 traffic.
Here is the sister Penske Porsche coming in for service. Briscoe is in.
Fuel going in this Porsche RS Spider right now. The crew going to work now. I should mention the crew. Now remember, this is a third car for Penske, and all of these over-the-wall guys come from the IndyCar team. Very different rules in the IndyCar series. The car hits pit road, the fuel goes in, the tires go on, and they've got to really be patient to make sure that they don't touch it, because once again, no work can go on any of these cars until after the fuel is done. It's done now, the tires will go on. Little rub mark here on the left rear, but it looks like a routine stop. Chris?
Well, Brian, you see a tire change down at your end of pit lane. Acura, Tony Kanaan, the XM satellite car, no tire change, so it looks like he's going to leapfrog the Penske that you've got down there. And this is one thing that the Michelin engineers have been telling me about these Acuras. They've just got them performing so well with the tire. I checked with the engineer on this car. He said, we've been double stinting all day, and actually once it gets cooler, we think we can triple stint the tires. So these guys doing exactly what Tony Kanaan said earlier. We've got to try and make up time in pit lane because the Porsches are fast on the straights.
Well, there's a slight delay there, Chris, on the Penske stop. That was not a routine Penske stop. Looked like a bit of an issue on the rear of the car, but Donnie Wilson is the tire engineer for Michelin on the number 26 machine. He is certainly working his magic, but you have to be careful. They don't get a lot of long runs here over the course of this weekend, Dorsey, so you've really got to go back to your track knowledge from previous years, because if you suddenly do a double stint and you start losing over a second a lap, that equates to losing a complete lap during one stint here at the pace of these race cars.
Well, Calvin, the problem with that stop on the number 5 car, that rub, that tire rub that you saw there on the left rear actually broke the latch where the engine cover latches to the rest of the bodywork there in the back. The crew tried to latch it back together, but the latch itself was bent, damaged, it wouldn't go, so they had to use some of that Bear Bond, one of those patches, to try to put it across and hold those two pieces of bodywork together, and that's what delayed them on pit road.
And that delay was enough for Tony Kanaan and the Andretti Green Acura to move ahead of Ryan Briscoe. Chris?
Well, guys, just talking about what Acura has tried to do to really maximize the performance of the Michelins. Talking with those engineers this week, and they said after last season finished at Laguna Seca, they sat down and said to Acura and Worth and said, you guys aren't getting all the performance out of this tire. We need to abuse it more. You're not getting even in the window of performance on temperature. They were about 25 to 30 degrees lower than what they needed to be. So Acura and Worth went back and did some of the geometry on that car, came back out at Sebring. The guys at Michelin said they were absolutely amazed because they got right within that window of performance, and that's what we've seen this year with Michelin and the Acuras.
That's a very strange problem to have a car that's developed that does not use the tire hard enough to make the tire come into where it is supposed to be, used. And I've only had a car once ever that I had that problem. It's pretty perplexing to deal with.
The other thing that was happening last year is that the Acura boys were having to use the tire that was developed around the Porsche. And over the course of the off-season, they've now developed tires specific to the Acura chassis. I think it's just in the front end, as I recall, talking to the engineers earlier in the season, but it's a front tire specific to the Acura chassis.
And the Worth that Chris was referring to, Worth Research, Nick Worth and his organization from the UK, working hand in hand with HPD, Honda, Acura here in the United States. It is quite the effort. And remember, it's only their second year of competition in the American Le Mans Series. The Penske Porsches have had another year on top of that. So they have really stepped it up. However, sadly, from the Acura side of the fence, the championship challenge evaporated earlier today. Within the first hour of this race, a crash by the Patron Highcroft car at the hands of Scott Sharp. Whether something broke, something happened with the traction control, we're not completely sure, but it ended with Scott into the bridge coming up over the hill. This is winding back the clock all the way to the first hour of the race, and Scott was as surprised as anyone. Take a look at this.
Now, with traction control on, that would have never happened, if it was working properly, because what happened was he spun the rear wheels up coming through the right-hander, and so we either have a problem there or something could have broke. Scott said he thought something broke on the car, just snapped into an oversteer slide, and he hit the end of the bridge.
Bumped into someone during the break who had spoken to Duncan Dane, who said that they had been working with the traction control settings, so maybe that caught Sharpie out, but certainly a major disappointment for that team and Acura as well, of course.
The thing is that corner is not much of a corner, so to have a crash there like that is usually an indicator of something that didn't work right.
7.5 seconds is the margin first to second. Audi's Lucas Luhr over Peugeot's Nicolas Manassian as the shadows really come into play here late in the afternoon, just north of downtown Atlanta. There are so many people that make a race meeting, an event of this magnitude happen, and I want to give a shout out to our special friends, the flaggies and corner workers. There are 92 in total, representing 17 different states, 20 SCCA regions. We've even got 3 foreign visitors as well. So we want to say hi and thank you to all of those loyal motorsport fans and workers. We really appreciate it. It's time now to join our Brian Till for a Michelin tire tip.
Well, Lee, you know, one of the things that we've been talking about today is weather changes, and as the temperature changes, the Michelin tire engineers are going to change the pressure in these Michelin race slicks. The hotter it is, the higher the pressure gets. As the weather gets cooler, it'll be lower pressure inside these tires. The weather actually changes those pressures, and it does the exact same thing on your street cars at home. So as we move into the fall and the weather begins to cool down, very important to check the pressure in your tires, because that pressure will change. The other thing that we've talked about tonight is visibility. You can already see the sun beginning to get low. It's in my eyes right now. These drivers are going to be faced with visibility issues, just like the drivers on the street in the fall. We're going to face more rain. Some of you may even face snow, so it's going to be important that you can see as well. You can't drive if you can't see, so Michelin wants to make sure that you're not only taking care of the tires on your car, but you're also checking the Michelin rubber that's in your windshield wiper. So once again, just another way that Michelin making sure that their technology on the racetrack transfers to the street.
You only face snow if you live in Ohio, mate. We don't get that much down here in Georgia.
And I sure don't get any down on the Keys, but they
This is for the lead.
Look at this on the inside.
Down the inside. Wasn't defended too aggressively there by the 45. Remember that championship position. They realize that the Ferrari guys will be pushing them hard. They'd love to see them falter here. We're not at 70% yet to score points today.
Remember the story with Risi Competizione with that problem with the shifting. They rectified it on the stop, and now the red machine is back out in front.
Right there now.
Going it alone, just the 2 drivers, the 2 regular championship drivers in the Ferrari 430. Salo and Mello.
Talking to Rick Mayers, technical director for Risi, he said Mika really likes to jump these curbs.
If you can hear me. Oh, 4 laps to the pit.
That's Rick talking to him right now. 4 more laps before he needs a pit stop. He said, I have to be very careful with how low I run this Ferrari, because Mika really likes to jump the curbs around here. You can damage the underfloor. Oh, tight there.
It was one of the Audis.
Capello, I believe, was trying to dive down the inside for turn 7, and Mika did not see him.
And that could be the sun too, Calvin, right? That part of the racetrack is one of the areas when you come out of 6 on the way to 7 that you're looking directly straight into the sun.
Lucas Luer, Nicholas Manassian, Dumas, Capello, Long, your top 5. Let's go back to turn 7, featuring this car and Dindo Capello. Watch how close this is.
That's 6 you're looking at, so you come out of there, sun right in your face.
Oh, Dindo had to use all of the apex curbing there. Let's take a look on board with Dindo Capello. He'll get a good shot out of 6 here.
There's
See the
sun.
blinding sun. Woo. That was close.
Yeah, that's one of the bad corners on this racetrack. Until the sun goes down, you're just totally blind. And it's a crucial corner, too.
Speaking GT cars for a moment, GT1 and the 4 did eventually get going again. Of course, the Corvette Racing boys rectified that throttle problem for Ollie Gavin, and the 4 is back out on track. It's 15th overall, and it is some 6 laps down on the sister car. And here is Gavin back out on track, and he just got one of those laps back. So the 4 will continue to charge on, but things looking good at this stage of the race. At this stage, there is still a long way to go for the 3.
And 6 laps seems like a lot, but it's not if something breaks. You know, if you have something go wrong with your car and you have to limp around this place and they have to repair it when you get back to the pits, well, 6 laps goes away in a hurry.
I'll tell you what, the 3 car does not seem to be totally up to speed there. Look at that GT2 car coming down the inside there. So maybe something's adrift with a 3 car. They may be backing off the pace enough. I think by my calculation, they need about another 20 laps to get to that 70% mark. Then they'll be locked in for points today.
This is the 71 Tafel Ferrari Championship contending car. It is a stretch for them to do it, but it is not impossible. Chris?
Well, Dominic Farnbacher getting behind the wheel. It's definitely a stretch after that 9th place finish at Detroit. But Look, this team has had 3 wins this year. They're having a good day, but they just keep getting caught out on these cautions, so they're 1 lap down right now. They said the car is really running perfect, but we just keep getting horrible luck when the cautions come out, so they're trying to fight their way back on the lead lap in GT2. Talking with Tony Dow this weekend, I mean, Tony Dow has got such a resume in racing for so many years, and he said, you know what? This has been my favorite year of racing. It has been so enjoyable working with this Ferrari and this team. It is definitely, with what we've done, my favorite year.
Here is the lanky British driver Ben Orcott going from one Ferrari to another. This is the JMB Ferrari, and he is paired with Stefan Daoudi and a very fast man, Pierre Caffa. And this guy here is, when you see the 3 drivers together, they were doing practice driver changes yesterday. It's a very different setup compared to his 2 teammates. He is considerably taller.
Yeah, he's a lot bigger than Caffa for sure. And this is a good little team coming over from Europe. They're actually utilizing a lot of the spares and equipment in terms of fuel rig and the transporter from a US-based team called Siegel Sport, and Manuel Lupe, who's the team manager for Siegel Sport, has a history that goes back to running these cars over in Europe, so they leaned on a friend here to help them come over and do these last couple of races.
Well, boys, in 10 laps we will reach the 70% mark needed to get points. So in lap 276, that will be 70% of the distance that's needed, and then they can take the gloves off.
That's right.
Here's the 61, the Krone Racing Risi Ferrari. Nick Johnson behind the wheel, and he is teamed with regular partner Tracy Krone. And, of course, Eric van der Poel, the inaugural winner of Petit Le Mans here at Road Atlanta. We won back the clock to 1998.
These guys had a podium finish at Sebring this year, and, of course, Nick Johnson with Tracy Krone and young Colin Brown had a great result at Le Mans a couple of years ago with a podium finish there. So good strong run today for those boys.
Yeah, Nick was quite pleased with qualifying 6th. He hadn't qualified the car since Le Mans and staying with GT2. And as we showed you that graphic a little earlier, here is current GT2 24 Hours of Le Mans winner Darren Turner, who shared that win, GT1 I should say, winner with David Brabham and Antonio Garcia. He's running in GT2 here, and this car is currently 3rd in the Green Challenge for all GT cars. A tremendous effort for Drayson Barwell Racing.
They're really starting to get a handle on this race car. The rear wing was given a breakaway in terms of it's able to run right up at the roof level now, as you can see there from that shot. It's much higher, more efficient. Dale White, who used to run the Peterson White Lightning team, has been assisting this car this year in terms of getting them up to speed. And in recent weeks, we've seen some of the guys over from Aston Martin, George Howard Chapel made a visit to Road America to try and help things along, get them more efficient with the engine program in particular.
Here is the Panos Esperante for Panos Team PTG, and a little tail happy there. Under braking down into turn 10A.
This car has gone through quite a lot of aerodynamic development in the last half of this season. It's a much better car now than what it started out to be.
That team has had some trouble today. They went back behind the wall when we were taking a break earlier going to Talladega. The team had to go back behind the wall to replace the power steering line. They had to go back behind the wall again after that to replace the power steering pump. So things aren't ideal for that team right now, but there is a lot of development that PTG has done to that Panos Esperante, and Panos seems to be happy with it.
Joey Hand's behind the wheel right now, and he has a long history with team principal Tom Milner. He said, I owe a lot to Tom. He said, because when I was meant to drive with him many years ago, I got my golden opportunity to go Toyota Atlantic Racing. He said, Tom nearly killed me and didn't talk to me for about 3 months. He said, but we've had a long and healthy relationship since then, and he's driven a variety of cars for Tom. As we switch gears to the Black Swan Racing team, the Ford GT40. And, of course, the only car in the field on Falcon tyres.
Talking to Anthony Lazzaro, he is really impressed with these tires. Now, Falcon Tires is owned by Sumitomo, which also owns Dunlop, so he said, I think there's some of their technology crossing over. He said, these guys are unbelievable. Within 6 weeks, they're actually changing and producing new race tires for us, which is exactly what we need. And he said, I'm really impressed with this tire company. They're doing a great job for us right now.
And Tim Pappas is well and truly into the groove, so to speak, with the Green Challenge. He and his family are in the construction industry, and Tim has won multiple awards in his hometown of Boston for greening awards within architecture, construction, and large buildings. So he has done a nice job himself. So we see the 62 serviced and sent. GT2 class leading car at the time of that pit stop. So Risi Competizione, can they go all the way and grab the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the smaller version, Petit Le Mans, here at Road Atlanta? I want to remind you about the season finale in just 2 weeks' time. And it is the Monterey Sports Car Championships at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. And that is coming your way on NBC, our friends at NBC Sports, October 19. The race meeting itself is on October 18. That'll be your last chance to see the ALMS cars in 08. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by True Value, with the tools, products, and advice to start your projects right. True Value. Start right. Start here. And by Audi. The truth is out, it's powerful, and it's available at your Audi dealer now. Audi, truth in engineering. This is the 10th round of the 11-round American Le Mans Series for 2008 as we check in with our race-leading car. This is Lucas Luhr, recently crowned P1 champion. He has won championships in the ALMS in 3 classes, GT2, P2, and now the big one. Dramas here for the 18 VC Racing Porsche. Dramas on the left rear.
But he's close to pit in right here. He's got to make this right-hand corner and he'll be right on the pit lane. So fortunate for him that this flat tire occurred somewhere near pit in. It's just like a regular puncture to me. He's lucky that carcass hasn't come up, although he's trying.
Mark Bassing has so much experience with these Porsche race cars. He does most of the testing over in Weissach, Germany. He's a great addition to this team. We believe that's him behind the wheel right now.
Driving with the Dutch brothers, Francesco and Nicky Pastorelli. Jamie, take it away.
He has brought the car to a stop in pit lane. He's fortunate because it doesn't look like there's any body damage on this Porsche 911 from that flat tire. A lot of times when they go flat, they will tear up the body, but this team has struggled all season long to get up to speed. They haven't had very much luck, and they also haven't had very much help. They started off the season as a 2-car program, but ended up having to use their second car for spares. Even this weekend, parts came in late. They didn't arrive until almost this morning. They got them last night in time to get them put onto the car. They had the mechanical failure at Mosport when the tire fell off, so luck hasn't always played in the favor, but this team has just kept going, and it's a big achievement for them to still be running today.
See the mechanic stick his head up there, look around, make sure that none of the shrapnel, nothing took out a brake line or took out anything important. This is one of the tire companies. This is Kumho Tire, one of the few variations that we see that's not a Michelin.
So as the VC Racing crew go to work, if you're just joining us, Audi is leading this race by about 16 seconds over Peugeot, and the second Audi is in 3rd place, about a minute behind the race leader Lucas Luhr. That's Dindo Capello. So just giving you the picture up front, that's what overall honours look like. Butch Leitzinger here for Dyson Racing in the 20, currently inside the top 10. And one of the drivers he's sharing Petit Le Mans with this year is Andy Lally.
Yeah, Lee, the 20 car was down the lap early because they got caught out on cautions. They fought their way back onto the lead lap. Andy Lally just got out of the car. You're down a lap again now, Andy. What's going on out there?
We got a really good car, actually. It's a little crazy in traffic out there. I haven't had to deal with these guys since Sebring, so the closing rates are huge, but it's a blast to be out here in this Dyson car and cutting through the field in LMP2. Had some good battles there. I was holding up a couple of guys. I was just a little too stubborn to get out of the way, and but having fun, man. It's cool to be back. It's a 7-month layoff from being in a prototype, but it definitely feels good getting back in the track and going this fast.
Lee was saying earlier that you're a guy that will just drive anything, and in fact, tomorrow, after this race tonight, you're going to drive to Danville, Virginia to start a 6-hour race tomorrow at 10 a.m. You think you can at least spread it out a little bit?
Man, I'd love to. I wish it was a race later in the afternoon, but I think we go green at like 10 a.m. We'll split here about 10 p.m., drive about 5 hours tonight to Danville, get a couple hours sleep, maybe skip the driver's meeting and please, and get on track at 10 with those guys. The guys, TRG, they've got a fast car. My teammate Scotty up there is doing a good job setting it up, so we'll have fun Saturday and Sunday here.
Good luck with the rest of this one, and good luck tomorrow, man.
And last week, He was at New Jersey Motorsports Park for ARCA's first road race in 7 years. He put it on the pole by more than a second, but unfortunately didn't convert it to the win. More dramas here for the Taffel 73 car. Second time today we've seen it perpendicular to the racetrack.
And it brings out a full course caution. This is the 8th one on lap 276. Possibly high-centered, Calvin, where it looks like it's up on the curb. Yeah, it is high-centered. You see him trying to get it going now.
That's Pierre Eret. And we are under a full course caution. So yet another punctuation point in this very much stop-start Petit Le Mans 2008.
Got her going again.
Up through the S's there, Dorsey. That's really been our problem spot all day. Unfortunately, he just sneaks ahead of that pace car. That was a close call.
That was a very close call, losing a lap there, but he did get it by.
See the racer tape on the left front from Jim Taffels earlier off through the very fast turn 12, but to go off there in turn 12 and still see this car running, I have to say that Jim got away with one there today, but they'll keep soldiering on. Local team. All the mechanics are sleeping in their own bed this weekend, which is always a nice thing when you've been traveling all year. Certainly bring a lot of their local guest supporters and vendors here to the event.
Now he'll have to get on the gas and go all the way around this 2.5-mile track and catch up to the tail end, of the pace car procedure.
And yes, that is the sister car immediately behind of Dominic Farnbacher, so they're scrambling their way all the way back around. Let's paint the picture for you while we're under this full course caution. I mentioned Lucas Luhr is the race leader. That hasn't changed over Manassian and Capello. We switched to Prototype 2, 4th place overall, but the lead of P2 is Penske's Timo Bernard, points leader as well. Tony Kanaan for Andretti Green is 2nd in class, ahead of Ryan Briscoe, who's 3rd in class. Then it's Patrick Long and Luis Diaz. That's your top 5 in P2. In GT1, 12th overall, yes, the legend Ronnie Fellows is leading in the 3 machine over Ollie Gavin. And in GT2, Mika Salo is your race leader in that class over Mark Lieb and then Dominic Farnbacher. We just saw the young German driver on screen. So that's the top 3. Patrick Pilet for Flying Lizard is 4th in GT2 over Seth Nyman. So the Flying Lizard's very well represented in class, and they are trying to consolidate a GT2 championship win. It's the 5th year of ALMS competition for Flying Lizards. They are yet to win a driver's title. They would really love to do it here today. There's one of the Lizards cars. That is the 44 that team principal Seth Nyman drives. That is Seth behind the wheel, and he is currently 5th in class. Imagine the undertaking to run 3 of these Porsche 911 RSRs. Very expensive equipment. You've got all of the personnel. Tommy Sadler and all of the guys do a wonderful job there. They've got people, personnel everywhere, and their merchandise is some of the most popular on the circuit. They seem to always sell out. They are a fan favorite. The Flying Lizards from California. Hey, I want to remind you, October 16 for the very first time, the prestigious Barrett-Jackson Auto Auction in Las Vegas. Yes, it's live here on Speed from Sin City. That is one to watch out for. We are still under caution, but it is coming to a close. We'll be going back racing shortly. We want to tell you about this special feature we have got coming up. Of course, this is the worldwide racing debut for the Green Challenge, the American Le Mans Series, leading the way with alternative fuels and greening in racing.
One of the things that the American Le Mans Series has tried to do is to use the energy content, the caloric content, the energy value stored on board in the cars, and they've tried to analyze that between E10 and E85 and diesel fuel, and they've made it so that alternative fuels can compete against each other.
Audi decided to go in a different direction towards environmentally friendly engines, and diesel is a very clean combustion. So this is the way out. This is the future. We go with diesel, and we think this is the most efficient in fuel economy and the greenest solution you can have.
You know, the opportunity presented itself by the E85 people to convert our Corvette to E85 everyone at Chevrolet was go for it, because, you know, Chevrolet leads the way in so many different areas of technology. And really one of the neat things about the E85 that we're using, it's cellulastic. It's stuff, it's taking all the drippings and stuff off a forest floor, grinding that up and doing it. So really we are not affecting the food chain at all. We're actually helping clean up the forest. So, you know, we are being doubly green with this effort, and everybody E85 is, you know, they've been a joy to work with, and it's been a very educational process for all of us.
Well, basically the hybrid involves a kinetic energy regeneration system called KERS, which basically you're going to have almost like an alternator system that runs off the input shafts that's going to generate under braking, not when you're just driving down the straight, but under braking. It's going to regenerate some of the energy, store it in a battery, and then when you release it at this stage, early stages, by pushing a button, you're then going to get a boost of horsepower. In terms of being at the cutting edge of the environmental technological side, pretty much that's where we're at with this. And I believe the only other companies out there, major manufacturers like Peugeot, who are also quite a long way down the road with this. And it just shows you the American Le Mans Series, as ever, is right at the forefront of the cutting side of all technology.
Yes, leading the way, and this is a special day in worldwide motorsport with the Green Challenge. We spoke a lot about it several nights ago, Thursday night, if you saw our special live preview show during night practice from here at Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta, with President and CEO of the American Le Mans Series and the Paynos Motorsports Group, Scott Atherton. Scott joins us now in the speed booth. We discussed Green Challenge the other day. We're up and running. It's live. We've been giving the viewers, Scott, updates on who is where. But let's switch gears and talk about the state of the series. You do an annual address to VIPs, to media, to manufacturers, teams, everything. It happened yesterday. I was sitting in the audience. Very well conducted. Congratulations on that. But for the viewers, bring us up to date with a brief.
Well, it's tough to be brief when you talk about a whole year, but I'll do my best. I think all the major business measures that we consider to be important are up and trending up. So if it's spectator counts, which is very evident here today, television ratings, the number of viewers, the unique visitors to our website, the content on our grid, manufacturers, sponsors, you name the category, and we're at or above record highs. So in brief, the state of the series is very strong and headed up.
And Scott, you also announced the 2009 schedule, and one thing you've talked about the last few years is keeping a consistent schedule so the race fans know when and where to find these events each and every year.
Exactly, Calvin. And when we first announced this schedule that we're running this year, which actually 2 years ago, we said at the time, if we could come back and replicate this again, we would be pleased. That's exactly what we were able to do this year, and again, can't tell you how pleased we are to be going back to the same venues, just about at the same times, good solid mix of very high quality speed cable coverage and some other network coverage as well. We're at all the historic road courses and the major city markets with temporary streets courses. I think it's an example of don't fix it if it's not broken.
You know, as the major engineers of all the automotive companies that are looking at this going green and the hybrid situation, et cetera, it puts a huge burden also on your technical staff to keep up with their acceleration of their program.
In a word, that's the understatement. It really is, because we recognize that the manufacturers have such depth when it comes to technical resources, and we don't try to kid ourselves that, you know, we can keep up with them. The good news is that there's a very collaborative relationship there. They need a place to race. They want to race with their technology that they can showcase on the racetrack and bring through to the production cars. So with that recognition, it really is a cooperative effort to make sure that we can keep them within the boundaries of competition and not let one of them get out of the box.
In essence, I'm sorry, Lee, in essence, if they get this KERS system up and running, and if they can generate the battery long enough, they have a push-to-pass scenario where they can actually make horsepower over a short period of time. And how will that be regulated against guys that don't have it?
Well, there's a phrase called performance balancing that comes into play, and right now the whole issue of hybrids, because I need to point out that these are not hybrids that are similar to what would be in a Prius, for instance. These are the next generation. And again, our technical staff is working very closely with the manufacturers, in this case Zytec, and there's two others that are actively involved, because we're establishing these rules. You know, that's one of the things that we're doing here, is blazing new territory. There isn't the manual to go reference. We're writing the manual.
We're about to go green shortly, Scott, but it must have been a huge boost and shot in the arm for the American Le Mans Series. We're all fans of the sport. When you open up the pages of the Wall Street Journal or USA Today or publications like that, and you see your partners like Acura and Porsche displaying huge ads.
The activation of our corporate partners this past season and right now has been unprecedented. And you're right, we haven't had that level of exposure ever. And the fact that they've all put our corporate identity, the series logo in their ads is tremendous.
Here we go, back to racing. Lengthy caution period over and out. That's the 8th undone. Green flies for Lucas Lewis. Sarrazin, the pole man, is chasing him down. And there is Dindo Capello. This is as close as the one car has been. It was as far back as a minute behind the race lead, so that caution helped.
Well, we see Dindo Capello staying out. We did hear some radio communication between the crew and Dindo that on the last pit stop, they found some strange material inside the right rear wheel. So they're wondering if there's any kind of suspension issue. Remember, and here we see another car. I was just going to talk about McNish's crash in the installation lap. Now we see the 15 car off ahead having a tremendous run here. Luis Diaz behind the wheel.
Okay.
Cold tires, remember.
We have seen several instances over the weekend of cold tire crashes on the out lap on a restart. This is another. Might have got lucky here, boys. No, he didn't. Right rear damage, pretty good.
Big damage. What a shame. These guys just can't catch a break. They've been very competitive, knocking on the door all season long.
That's going to make a mess on the way back.
Yeah,
while we're talking about a mess, that caution we were just under was that long because they cleaned this racetrack up. My hat's off to him for making that decision.
Here's the replay of Luis Diaz. What happened? Was he helped?
Traffic involved there, one of the Taffel cars. Let's take a look on board with Luis Diaz as he climbs the hill. Clears the Panos. Then there's the 73 Ferrari over to him. Yeah, and he got tagged. 73 Ferrari to his left flank, Dorsey, as he turned into turn 3.
Turn 3 is totally blind, uphill corner. You don't see the corner until you're over the brow of the hill. And you're looking into the sun again at this time of the day, right in that corner.
Tough to get the perspective there where the Luis moved over a little bit. I mean, these cars can't vanish and disappear. You've got to give those slower GT2 cars some room to get through the corner as well. Can't really lay the blame on anyone at this point.
And on cold tires, it doesn't take any kind of a contact whatsoever to get you turned.
And while this is going on, Stefan Sarrazin has taken over the lead of the race in the Peugeot 908. Stretching the legs over the two Audis. Lua, Capello, top 3. Briscoe is 4th overall in the lead, P2 ahead of Timo Bernard and Frank Montagny for the AGR team. Then Patrick Long. Let's go back and show you how Sarrazin, the former F1 and World Rally driver, got the lead of Petit Le Mans.
Horsepower. Down the straightaway we go.
Here he comes. These guys hitting close to 200 miles an hour here down the back stretch. Just moves it to the inside and take the lead away.
We've seen that the Peugeot has those legs. It has straightaway speed, no question about it.
They have boasted they have the fastest sports car in the world. Is it the most reliable? 1,000 miles is the playing field here today, and we will find out as we go and race into the dark here at Road Atlanta whether this car, the Peugeot Sport 908, will be the car. We've got the president and CEO, the boss, with us right now. We'll talk more with Scott Atherton when we come back. Racing into the night. The 2008 Petit Le Mans continues here, round 10 of the American Le Mans Series 2008. Overall race leader is the Frenchman, Stefan Sarrazin, and running away, putting seconds between he and Lucas Lua, the newly crowned ALMS P1 champion. Let's talk Green Challenge for a moment. We still have Scott Atherton, the president and CEO of the American Le Mans Series, with us, and it is the 6 Penske that leads the way. American Porsche factory driver Patrick Long behind the wheel of that car. In fact, it's 3 Porsches in the top 3 in the prototype category. It's nicely divided. Prototypes, we don't distinguish between P1 or P2 in the Green Challenge. And then GT cars, 2 Corvettes and an Aston Martin. Scott, you had 3 trial runs with the Green Challenge. This is the one for real. This is your worldwide debut. Have you got some feedback from the staff? What are your impressions? Are you pleased that it's debuted here at Petit Le Mans?
Well, the feedback right now is that it is going absolutely to plan. The technology, the telemetry that IMSA is using to monitor these cars has worked flawlessly. I think there's probably some surprises up there, some assuming that a clean diesel or an E85 example would automatically win. I think you're seeing the byproduct of a direct injection engine that's being incredibly fuel efficient that is rising to the top right now.
These are the Porsches that we're talking about with that direct fuel injection.
Ryan Briscoe leading this man, Timo Bernhard, who's hoping to clinch the championship here today. We believe he'll do it. The top 3 finish, but look at the 26 car. Frank Montagny right behind him, going to put the pressure on these boys. It seems like the Penske's have had a little bit more straightaway speed all day long. High downforce setup, I believe, on the Acura, Dorsey.
That might pay dividends when it gets colder tonight, too, because we're going to start losing track grip out there as the temperature starts to drop. We're going to lose the daylight here shortly.
Look at how busy it is. And remember, there's a manufacturer's fight going on in P2 between Porsche and Acura. Now, while Acura has lost 2 of its big teams, 2 of its star teams, Montagny is still flying the flag for Acura and AGR.
And that is the key. They have a 4-point advantage coming into today. Oh, very tight there as the 61 swings across. Timo snucks it down a gear. He accelerates up the hill. It's still tight there. The 007 now he has to negotiate. Then the GT40, the 40 machine off to the left side on the dirty part of the racetrack course.
Going 3 wide around the outside of the S's. That's downforce.
Riding with Timo Bernhard, points leader in P2, defending P2 Series champion.
He had to make that pass other than get stuck behind them all the way through. Now watch when he turns right here. Sun right in your face in a brake zone, a viable brake zone.
And still execute a move.
Scott, you've seen a lot of the drivers come up through the ranks. Certainly Timo had great success in GT2. He's a gentleman. He's one of the stars of the American Le Mans series right now.
Absolutely, and we were talking about the drivers earlier today, and his name came up as someone who must just run a race on pure adrenaline, because he rips off qualifying lap after qualifying lap, 6-7 hours into the race.
That's physical stamina, I'll tell you that much, because these guys are really enduring a lot of G-force as they run these cars at near 10 tenths for the entire event.
Good to see the 30 Intersport Lola continuing to run. It's been a troublesome day for the Intersport team. The 37 has retired. The 30 is still running. American Le Mans Series Racing, all about 4 classes on the track at the same time. You're looking at it right here with the variety, all mixing it up. Traffic heavy. What an understatement.
See Pat Long now joining the party as well. That's the 3rd of the yellow cars in the picture. There he is, just going through the apex of 5. Frank Montagny gets around that GT2 traffic. Can he take advantage there? Slices back to the inside. Timo did a great job there, Dorsey. He has to be patient and get these points here today.
We used to call that low percentage passing, but you can't call it that anymore because the tables are turned. These prototype cars have so much downforce. The closing rate is such great compared to a GT car. The GT cars are braking for the corners. These cars are not braking for the corners. You're forced into a situation of having to get the job done.
The ACO, Scott, released their rules going forward, 2009 beyond recently. How are we placed here with IMSA in the American Le Mans Series now that Corvette has announced that they will do 3 races next year and then switch to GT2? I guess the question I'm asking is, where do we stand GT1-wise?
I think at this point with Corvette's decision, the reality is that GT1 appears to be going away, to be blunt about it. We will continue to live with the ACO and feature the 4th class system if there's a viable 4th class. If not, then we are actually very pleased with a single GT category. And when you know and recognize that BMW is entering the series as of the beginning of next year, with Corvette evolving into GT2, joining Ferrari, Panos, and of course Porsche, it's going to be incredibly tall cotton there.
We really appreciate your time, as we do each and every year here at Petit Le Mans. I know you haven't spoken to many people today.
I'm quite enjoying watching the race, to be honest with you. This is the first time today I've had a chance to sit down. This is entertaining.
Well, we won't ask you any more questions. We do appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Good luck at NASCAR Raceway Laguna Seca, and enjoy the off-season.
Thank you very much.
All right, time to squeeze in a quick break. We need to go away just for a moment. You can really see how things are changing here night-wise. I want to remind you about the ballot opening up for the annual From the Fans and the most popular driver awards. They're underway. It ends tomorrow night at midnight, and you can play a role. Go to AmericanLeMans.com and make your vote count. There are your 4 respective class leaders. This one is far from done. Can Peugeot spoil the Audi party? Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by Acura, Acura Advance, and by Michelin, a better way forward. Speaking of going forward, that's exactly what Stefan Sarrazin is doing. Race leader, we welcome you back here to Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta. Lee Diffie along with Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader, Brian Till, Chris Neville and Jamie Howe is the gang here in Georgia. What a race we have got going on in 3 of the 4 classes. Unbelievable. We turn the attention to GT2. Mark Lieb and Mika Salo going hard at it. Lieb, who finished runner-up this year, tied runner-up in the Le Mans Series in Europe, fending off the former F1 driver.
Well, a few laps ago, we saw Mika Salo make the move on Jörg Bergmeister down into that brake zone. I say the significant thing is now we are past the 70% mark. I think the Flying Lizard boys will go for the victory now, Dorsey. Points are kind of in the bag. They can still lose a few, but they have a massive lead. So right now, let's go for victory.
Yeah, Mika Salo was not happy with the handling on that Ferrari earlier. Talking about it being so loose, he thought he was going to crash into the wall. But they've switched drivers. Now Jamie Mello in the car. Obviously, they fixed it, tuned it up. Whatever they had to get done is done. Car's not loose now.
Hey, and remember the history between these 2 teams.
Yeah, I remember Sebring. That was awesome stuff. Funny how you always seem to get 2 teams who end up at the top of the heap. And even though Reese have had a disappointing season in the American Le Mans Series, they are still, week in, week out, one of the strongest cars on the racetrack. And Jamie Mello is possibly the fastest guy out there.
And the man that Jamie is chasing, Mark Lieb, has enjoyed victory on so many platforms, whether it be here in North America, whether it be at Le Mans. You know what a serious young man he is. He did not compete at the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year when he had the opportunity because he wanted to finish his studies. He is one of the world's best Porsche 911 sports car drivers, yet he was focused on completing his education, getting his mechanical engineering degree, so he had something to go back to after racing. He may not need to. He can just keep on racing, but that's kind of what a focused young guy he is.
You know, arguably GT2 gives us the best, closest racing all the time. Then you add to it the Corvettes going in there, and of course Ray Hall's BMWs. I can't imagine it being much more competitive than it is.
Oh, Mello's close. Lieb defends. He takes the shallow entry. Mello is now looking for a way by. He's forcing the issue, Dorsey.
Yeah, he won't have anywhere to go with it for right now, but making his intentions known, that's for sure.
Jamie has made, and by his own admission, it took him a while to admit it, by his own admission, made some silly moves this year, most notably Sebring and at Salt Lake City in Utah that ended in a DNF on both occasions for the Risi Ferrari. They do not want that to happen. And check out who is coming in the background. Dominic Farnbacher in the Tafel Ferrari. It's going to be a 3-way battle.
Boy, it looks like Farnbacher's the fastest of those 3 cars.
He's a lap down right now, Dorsey, so he's going to try and get ahead of these guys, try and catch a break, maybe getting split by an overall leader in a pace car situation. He moves to the right side of the track. He sees that faster prototype car coming. Smart move there.
Might be able to use that to his advantage too. If that prototype gets inside these guys, which it looks like it will down in the brake zone.
Dominic Farnbacher, one of the studs of the series right now. He's always got a big smile on his face. And I spoke to Tony Dow, technical director, and he just said he has really got serious this year. Loves his racing, loves to have fun, but he is fast.
The P2 boys are pushing their way through the GT2 competitors. Ryan Briscoe still leads that class by a few seconds over this man here, his teammate Timo Bernard, and Frank Montagny is 3rd for Andretti Green Racing. And Bernard showing patience there ahead of behind Mello, just waiting to get through the S's, or does he? No, I can squeeze through here on the bottom end of the S's, heading up into turn 5.
Prototypes have enough Calvin. The downforce on prototypes allow them to make those outside passes.
You notice there on the entry to turn 5, he didn't run right underneath the Lizard car. He gave him a gap so he could accelerate through the apex and pass him easily coming off the corner. That's the key. You've got to get into a rhythm there with the gapping of the cars in front of you. And of course, the patience factor is a little bit easier right now with the fact that the 9 car is out of this event. And he's getting in the late stages. He knows he's going to score a bag of points here today and increase that championship lead that they walked into the day with.
That P2 traffic made life a little easier for Mark Lieb. See the gap now between he and this man here, Jamie Mello, and Dominic Farnbacher trying to get round his fellow Ferrari driver, get up with that yellow windshield stripe of the Flying Lizard Porsche and get his lap back. Another yellow will fly. That's almost a guarantee. And he may be able to come back around and be in this by the end.
Well, they need to get back on that lead lap. They can't afford to lose points to Wolf Hensler and Jörg Bergmeister here today. They've got to perform some kind of miracle here with a strategy. Get back on that lead lap with the other GT2 cars.
Updating you with the overall status of the race. Peugeot's Stefan Sarrazin is 11 seconds ahead of Lucas Luhr. And there he is right there in the Peugeot 908, the diesel-powered machine. We did have another coupe in this race, and that was the Mazda, the BP-sponsored Mazda coupe of BK Motorsports. However, it was heavily damaged in this morning's warm-up. Gerardo Bonilla at the wheel, and that was just devastation for BK Motorsports. So excited with the debut of that beautiful new Lola.
Saw John Doonan here just by our TV booth just a couple of hours ago. Devastation is really an understatement. They just can't believe it. Remember, they had the crash right before the 12 hours of Sebring. They got the car to the grid after a heavy repair, but fuel cell was leaking, didn't see the green there. Had such high expectations today with the debut of that coupe. And Gerardo Bonilla, unfortunately, had a massive crash in this morning's warm-up.
We constantly talk about traffic and the closing rates and just how everybody has to play happily in this big playpen. Take a look at this, the difference between GT2 and the leader.
Wow. Gotta be fun, Dorsey.
You know, you said it right, Calvin. There's two classes, there's four classes running, but when you catch a GT car, regardless of class, and you're in a prototype car, you have to do the ebb and flow. You have to analyze, can I get by him before he turns into the corner? Should I lift and make that happen? Or, you know, you got to keep your momentum up somehow, and both of you can work together.
See how dark it's getting in the S's. On the short chute up towards turn 6. Splash of sunshine here, right through the windshield. And then the shadows take effect on the back straight, heading down towards turns 9, 10A and 10B. It's a characteristic of this wonderful event, racing into the night, fireworks at the end when the checkered flag flies. Will Mello have enough here in the braking zone? He has bridged the gap, looking for the lead of the GT2 class, Ferrari versus Porsche, and Mello gets it, makes it stick. New race leader in GT2.
Maximum attack. Here comes Farnbacher. How aggressive will he be here on lead down into turn 12? No.
These are the two teams fighting for the championship win in GT2. That blue and white Ferrari needs to get by the Porsche, then needs to get past the red Risi Ferrari to be back on the same lap. We're far from done. It is possible.
And the red Risi Ferrari is headed into the sunset.
The Andretti Green boys hard at work. Frank Montagny is still doing a wonderful job. He is third in P2, chasing class leader Ryan Briscoe. There's been a variety of winners this year across the classes. Farnbacher Lowles enjoyed their one win.
Farnbacher Lowles, this team, the 87 machine, looking for their first victory in the American Le Mans Series.
Here we go. Oh, Salo gets balked big time.
That's Harrison Briggs in the 61 car. Werner looks to the inside, pushes it through. What a move by Dirk Werner, takes the lead in GT2. Can Salo respond? He pushes to the inside, total commitment to the inside. Can he get a turn?
Oh,
no, he loses the rear end. Too late on the brakes for Mika Salo.
Here he comes.
Two superstars coming up on Wind Tunnel tomorrow night at 9 p.m. What a show it is going to be, with James Stewart, reigning AMA Motocross champion, announcing his move to Yamaha, to L&M Yamaha, and of course four-time Sprint Cup champion Jeff Gordon. Super show. Join Dave Despain 9 Eastern tomorrow night. As always, Wind Tunnel on Sunday nights. And yes, this is true. These were actually seen here at Road Atlanta this weekend.
Nice dance, mate.
Hey, how did old Robin end up on top? Dave's the host of the show. He's the man.
That's right.
You know, well, now you know who paid for the shirt.
Huh? Dodgy old Robin slipping in there in his track pants. We're back. And we are back with a very powerful Peugeot. Boys, what are your thoughts on how they've conducted their race strategy thus far?
I think they've been very smart. I think that there had to have been a directive down from management to their drivers in terms of do not take any chances. This has been a season where they've shown tremendous speed, but we haven't brought home the silverware, and they have been very conservative in traffic. Their pit stops haven't been that quick, but right now they're out front and they've got a clean race car.
Yeah, Cal, Peugeot having just a great race here this weekend. And as you guys have been talking about the greening of racing, their plan next year at Le Mans is to try and have that third Peugeot be the hybrid car with the KERS technology on there. Their drivers being able to use that extra horsepower that they can generate off the braking in 3 different ways, either push to pass or just accelerating harder as they're coming out of the corners after they've gained that horsepower, or also fuel consumption. They're estimating that they can gain about 80 horsepower and be able to use that for about 20 seconds. You know, Dorsey, I start thinking about that 80 horsepower, you know, extra there. It kind of sounds like you back in the Turbo Cougar days.
We had a first push to pass button. I don't think we're supposed to talk about that, though.
Yeah.
This system, the KERS systems, it's remarkable to me. I mean, what they're doing with that and trying to make it store in energy. You know, if you have that push-to-pass capability and it can run 20 seconds, think of what that means over someone who doesn't have it.
Right.
And because Scott Atherton said that, you know, they're going to have to make adjustments. That's what I was trying to allude to, was that this technology is going to go and it's going to show us new things, and it's going to transfer onto the cars that we drive on the streets.
Not good here for the Farnbacher-Lowes Porsche. Dramas for the 87. And Jörg Hart, who has been behind the wheel at times of distress.
What's all the windshield stuff here? I mean, that is, the whole windshield's covered in something that I'm not sure what it is.
One of those tear-offs maybe is torn, Dorsey.
It could be that.
You know, they have those tear-offs. It looks like they have half off the car.
Take a look at this, see if this tells us any more.
Oh, well, that's at the top of the hill in turn 3. He didn't make turn 3 through. I think, you know what? I don't think he can see. I think if it is that tear-off like you're talking about, Calvin, that's right where you come up into the sun. And possibly he can't see a thing, but now he's stopped. You know, you'd might find your way back to the pits if that were the case, but something more.
Windshield seems to be in place. I'm pretty certain that is the tear-off that's just torn halfway across the screen. I'd suggest it's maybe some other issue he's having where he went straight, didn't have full power, then coasted down through the S's there and decided he wouldn't make up the hill through turn 5.
Take a look at the top there at turns 2 and 3 when he was going to us. So there's some debris on the track, whether that came from his car or not. Let's watch it.
Yeah, no, I think it was there already. But I think you're right, Kevin. I think he's pulled himself off. And now they're going to tow him to a safer. Hey, what is it there?
This car at one stage was vying for the lead of the class. GT2, Jörg Hart, Dirk Werner, Bryce Miller. Great trio of drivers, very fast for Farnbacher-Lowes, the local team based right around the corner from the racetrack here.
We expect them to be campaigning a second car next year in the American Le Mans Series. Waiting to hear the decision from Porsche, who typically are very late in the season before they announce their plans for next year, but they realize GT2 is tough now. It's just going to get tougher next year, as you mentioned, Dorsey, with Corvette and BMW coming on board.
That's quite exciting, I think. You know, I love sedan classes to begin with, and now that all of them will be technically in one class, it makes it easier to understand for, you know, first-time people coming in looking at this series.
Jamie Mello leading the GT2 class over Mark Lieb for Flying Lizard. Now keep spare a thought for Risi Competizione and Giuseppe Risi, and he runs Ferrari of Houston, and everybody in Houston, and they're making their way back, rebuilding from Hurricane 8. Fortunately, there was no damage done to Ferrari of Houston or to the Risi workshop, so they were spared damage there. So they were some of the lucky ones, and if they can win here, that will certainly be dedicated to the people of Houston and to the friends and family of Risi Competizione. So they're driving with a lot of hope here. There is Giuseppe Risi, a man who has been in motor racing 35 years. He is entering 3 cars at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and he was one of the winners of the inaugural Petit Le Mans 1998, the Doyle Risi Ferrari 333 SP, with Eric Vanderpool and Wayne Taylor and Emmanuel Pollard.
I raced against Taylor had dodgy sunglasses.
Oh yeah, he definitely did. I raced against that car back driving for Dyson at the time. That Ferrari was a great Ferrari. It really was neat.
Let's find out more about the Farnbacher Lowe's Porsche, Jamie.
I just checked in with the team. They say they think it might be the drive shaft. They're not 100% sure at this point in time. As you said, the driver is going to take a look at it, and I'll keep you posted.
Thanks for that, and we should also let you know, folks, that the 15 Lowe's Fernandez Acura has officially been retired due to that contact at the top of the hill. Just too much traffic in the one place, and Luis Diaz bumped out of the race. We're going to show you a replay of the 87 machine. Take a real close listen to the onboard audio.
Something's loose and flying around there, Dorsey. I heard a big knock.
Yeah, there's another one right there.
If that half shaft is snapped, they'll be flying around inside the wheel well.
Yeah, the constant velocity joint on the end.
Was that a clunk?
Yeah, well, you know, when your constant velocity joint breaks, the rest of the axle just sits there and flops around and beats away on things. He got it down to turn 5 coasting.
So your cart is done. Bryce Miller, Dirk Werner, Farnbacher Lowe's done. They join this growing list. The attrition rate has been high, but that's what Petit Le Mans is all about. It is a tough one to win. Audi on the chase, and they are chasing the mighty Peugeot 908 of Stefan Saras, and the margin is now down to 5.8 seconds. So we'll see what Lucas Luhr and Dindo Capello can do about Stefan Saras. And great day for Audi, for the king of Le Mans, Tom Christensen, putting himself on pole position for tomorrow's DTM event. Audi hoping to continue this positive wave of momentum. Brian?
Well, Audi is undefeated at Petit Le Mans. That could go all out the window today. The Peugeot running so strong. Remember the problems very early on for Alan McNish in the #1 car in the morning warm-up, and right now the 1 car is 26 seconds behind. And the reason is they're having some overheating issues. They've had to richen up the mixture because it's just running too hot as it was running lean, trying to chase down the Peugeot. A lot of dirt and debris in the radiators, so they're going to have to blow those out on this pit stop as the 1 car comes to pit road. Also concerns earlier about the right rear tire, which seemed to be blistering a little bit on the inside. They weren't sure whether they had run over some debris or perhaps some body work was cutting it down, but they've determined that it was just a blister issue. Michelin tire engineer said, no, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And right now, the #1 car rolling down pit lane. Dindo Capello will put it into a spot, and they'll blow out those radiators and see if they can cool that Audi diesel engine.
Look at the man who's jumping in, the Terrier McNish. He told Brad Kettler, fix the car, I'll go out and win the race. Well, right now, he's going to have to get the hammer down, and you know he's going to do it, Dorsey. We've seen it so many times, but they're up against it with that time differential they have to make up.
And leader is on pit road. Will Alan McNish take it all the way to the checkered flag? He did almost the first 3 hours of this event. We've got approximately an hour and a half remaining. Brian?
McNish finishing his driver change. You see the crewmen reaching into the radiators on the left side pod. Also, they will take an air hose and try to blow the debris out. I see a lot of grass and rubber coming out of that radiator as that crew member here on the left side trying to remove it, and now he'll blow out the radiators. Further down pit road, the Peugeot is in.
They've already cleaned the windscreen on the Peugeot, just waiting for fuel. We're going to have to see, are they going to double stint these tires? It looks like they are. And Brian, down at this end, they're not blowing the radiators out on this car, so it looks like temperatures are fine with the Peugeot. So just cleaning that windscreen, fuel, and Stefan Saras back out.
And of course, what Chris is talking about, double stinting, is instead of coming in at the end of your fuel load and putting new tires on or sticker tires on, they leave those tires on that were on from before. It reduces the time that they're in the pits, and they can run and not lose time by leaving those tires on.
You may wonder why does it save time in pit lane, because the fuel is going in. Well, of course, in this series, you cannot service the car whilst the refueling is taking place. But typically on the Audi, it's about 10 to 12 second tire change. It's a long wheelbase. You're only allowed 2 wheel guns over the wall, so the same guy has to run between the side of the car and get that wheel change done.
And one other advantage also, Calvin, is if you put on new tires, those tires are cold. You see the Peugeot making a pass right there. Those tires are cold. It takes a while to come up to temperature, and you could crash on that lap, which we've seen.
That's critical. I think he just put McNish a lap down.
He did. He certainly did. So the one car came into the pits 26 seconds down off the lead, but it slowly came in. Capello was slow to come into the lane, and then that stop, that extra time to clean the radiators, the Peugeot stopped. They didn't have to change tires, and they've been able to capitalize. So there's just 2 cars on the lead lap now.
Exactly what I was talking about. When the Peugeot didn't change tires, it could run faster pace out of the pit when they exited.
This car is coming to pit road too. Lucas Luhr is in. So the top 3 in the race, top 3 in P2, in P1, are all executing their stops.
Copy that, pit lane. Full
Key is going to be, with about 90 minutes left in this race or so, can Alan McNish then do like a stint and a half on his tyres? It'd be a real stretch for that Peugeot to not take tyres on the next stop, so maybe they'll get that advantage back.
This is huge. Remember, Audi, as Brian mentioned, Calvin mentioned, Dorset, they have never been defeated in Petit Le Mans since they've been competing in it. They do not want to get beaten here on home soil. Audi Sport North America, they do not want to lose a big endurance race to Peugeot, especially here in the United States. Marco Werner is in.
Lucas Luhr out, Marco Werner getting in, and they will try to put this 2 car up towards the front to do battle with that Peugeot. And it will be 4 new Michelin tires. I talked to the team. They don't believe they were going to go with softer compound tires. They said the pickup is just too extreme if we get a full course caution. The softs are just too soft. They turn into gumballs. So right now the driver change being done. There was a lot of debris that came out of the radiator of the 1 car. And it remains to be seen whether they can lower the temperature on that Audi diesel engine when McNish goes back after it. And that is a very different deal than what we saw at Le Mans. At Le Mans, it was the Peugeot with the radiators full of debris and the overheating issues. Audi thought that they were immune from it. They obviously are not. Marco Werner away.
Brian, were you able to see any blisters on the tires that came off the Audi the first stop?
No, I was not. It was just very small blisters around the inside shoulder there, Dorsey, just on the very inside. Almost like the car had too much negative camber in it. But as I said, the Michelin tire engineer said, no, it'll be fine.
As the Audi charge continues, sadly, the Acura charge has been cut in half. The latest to fall victim here at Road Atlanta, Lowe's Fernandez. Let's hear from the team principal.
Adrian, we spoke with Luis earlier. He said the day was going flawless so far, not a single problem, but now out early. How bad was the damage?
It's quite extensive, and unfortunately we weren't able to repair it in time, and it was you know, a bad situation for us. It's been a tough year, you know. We just have got so many little things, and we feel bad for our fans at Lowe's and all our supporters, but you know, we will keep working hard and come back strong.
A tough year, but the good news is that you'll be back in LMP2 next year again with Acura. With all the advancements this year, what are you looking most forward to?
Absolutely, we'll be back with car number 50 with Lowe's and Acura again in the P2, and you know, hopefully it will be a good year for us.
Well, we certainly wish you the best, and we're sorry about today.
Thank you.
And we appreciate Adrian coming back to pit road to talk to us, because he had left. They'd all packed up and headed back to the transporter. Look at this Peugeot continues to chase down Ryan Briscoe for the overall lead of the motor race. The P1, P2 scrap has been pretty intriguing today as well. And boy, are things going beautifully for Porsche in P2. They came in with a 4-point deficit in the manufacturer's chase coming into this 10th round of the American Le Mans Series. And they have really answered Acura's challenge in 2008. So the Peugeot moves ahead as quick as that. Sarrazin is flying.
Not much you can do when the guy goes by you at 50 miles an hour on a straightaway.
Well, I can't help but think back to earlier today, the smug facial expression and that little smile of Nicholas Manassian saying, hey, we simply have the fastest sports car in the world, and we have witnessed that today. I want to remind you, one last round of the ALMS to come. Of course, it is from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and you can hear live qualifying streaming from Friday, October 17, 6 p.m. Eastern. AmericanLeMans.com is the place to go.